Hey there, welcome to another YouTube video. I hope you guys liked that introduction. It was a fun experiment I wanted to try out. So to give you a bit of context for the painting itself, each month I give my students on Patreon an assignment that they have to do, and in this month the brief was around a girl who wakes up in a hospital. Her name is Eva, and she notices something is terribly off. I hope you could tell what could possibly have happened from the storyboard introduction and the painting itself. And in this painting I also wanted to show a workflow I tend to use a lot, which is working with line work. It's something I've found always very helpful. I tend to not do as much value painting as line work because, especially in interiors, there's a lot of questions you have to answer. And with line work, it's kind of making a very clear statement or answering a question very clearly. Versus with values, in my opinion, it leaves up for a lot of guesswork, which could be a great thing, or it could end up causing a lot more problems further down the line. And it's also something I tend to use a lot for my work, because I found out that even non-artist people can very easily understand what a line drawing says rather than a value painting, and I always find it very helpful. Something I also think is pretty important is to experiment with different things when you're an artist, just to keep developing and growing. In this case, something I've been thinking about a lot is how can I make my work feel slightly more graphical? And it's something I was very confident on wanting to try before I went into the painting. And that is why you see me using a lot of lasso tool, because it really helps communicate the graphical forms I was trying to achieve. Something I wanted to show is we all encounter in our paintings at one point or another where there's a big surface and it's a very repeated shape. And there's many ways to solve this problem. I personally like to hand paint a texture and then place it into perspective rather than Google for a texture online and just paste it in. Because I feel like if your painting itself is, the feel of it is very hand painted, using hand painting your own texture is just going to make it feel that much more consistent, and it's just going to match that much better. And it's very easy. Once you paint one shape, you can easily duplicate it several times and just stretch it into perspective, because painting tiles like these would be very hard to do it manually, and you can always paint on top of it and adjust it so they match color wise and value wise and light wise later on. But just getting the shapes and the texture in there, it's very helpful to do it in this way. So as I kept going back and forth on this painting, there's certain things I noticed, like in particular the values on the girl was kind of bothering me. Like the main thing, I was like, should I pop up the saturation, or should I pull it down, or should I make it darker? But the one thing I knew I had to solve was like the value on her robe was very close to her skin tone, so they look too similar when I turn it black and white. So I had to adjust that at one point. And it's very quick to fix once everything on separate layers. I also was playing around, moving her around, trying to make it see like, can I make the painting feel better if she's placed differently or somewhere else? But at the end I decided to keep where she's at. Something I always like doing as well is going back and forth between older layers, because I notice myself sometimes, you dive into a painting and you keep painting. It's like, yeah, this is cool. And then you go check an older layer. It's like, oh, wait, it looks much worse than it actually looked in the first place. So having those older layers is kind of a good way of backtracking yourself and making sure you're on the right path and not diving too far into a much different direction, which might not be a very good direction itself. As you can see, a lot of the shapes, pretty much all of them in the painting, were done with a lasso tool, because it all has a very hard and clean edge. And like I mentioned earlier in this video, it was a big part of the goal of the painting. Is like, how can I get that graphical look in the painting itself? And I found that lasso tool is pretty good for that, so it's something I definitely wanted to keep expanding upon. So as we're about to wrap up the video, I just wanted to mention that the full length of this video might be on Patreon. Each month I release something called a goodie pack, where it could contain anything if you're on the tier 2 and above. It might be the full length tutorial of this painting where you have the whole steps and the process PSD as well. It might not, but who knows. So be sure to check it out. There's going to be a link down below, and I hope you guys were able to take away something from this and use it in your own work. And as always, feel free to drop down your questions in the comment section below, and I'm going to try my very best to answer as many questions as I can. So thanks again for all the support you guys been giving me on YouTube. It makes it so much fun to make these videos. And I hope you enjoyed this one as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Goodbye.